What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and we've got something special for you guys. We have seen Avengers Endgame, and we've got a little review for y'all. And just a heads up, this is spoiler. I don't know how to do a non-spoiler review. I don't want to tell you, like, hey, this part is a non-spoiler and then accidentally say something that's a spoiler. Just, if you haven't watched it yet, just come back later after you watched it. I don't want to make a mistake and accidentally say, hey, non-spoiler, and then say blah, 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 and have people get really angry at me because
that would be fucked up.
No one loves a spoiler. No one loves a spoiler.
Nobody.
So yeah, we're going to talk about Endgame. And before we actually jump into the movie, I just wanted to share something because I'm not over-exaggerating, maybe a little bit. I think a lot of people will understand this and maybe some people might not. But the Marvel Cinematic Universe has legitimately, like, changed my life. When it comes to, like, entertainment, obviously. Like, I'm a huge, massive Star Wars fan. Star Wars is always going to be, like, number one in my life when it comes to, like, cinematic experience. Watching Star Wars movies has always been my all-time favorite thing. Mm-hmm. And that's never going to change. Star Wars is always going to be number one. But there's no denying it. There's been a little bit of a shift of that lately. Like, I've been very down on the last two movies recently, and, like, I wasn't a Marvel watcher from the beginning. I wasn't watching, I watched Iron Man 1, and, you know, it didn't land with me then. I honestly don't think I was ready when I watched Iron Man 1.
Same.
And then Avengers, the original Avengers, and, you know, Captain America, the original one. Like, I remember seeing them, and I remember not being overly impressed with them. And part of me was like, I wasn't a big fan of Chris Evans back in the day. And I just wasn't ready. Like, I think that's easiest way to boil it down. I just was not ready for it. And, you know, a few years went down the road, and I remember, I don't remember which movie was coming out, but something was coming out, and, like, one of my buddies was talking about it. I'm like, oh, dope, I wanna jump into this.
Black Panther.
No, this is way before Black Panther. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. Like, I've been hearing about these movies. They're really good. How many do I have to watch to, like, understand what's going on? And there was, like, 6 or 7 of them. And I'm like, I'm too far behind. Forget it. Like, I kind of just put the whole Marvel thing out of my, like, brain. Like, I grew up with the comic books. I don't remember reading them, but I collected them. And it took a guy at my job who also loved Star Wars, so we would always talk nerd stuff all the time. And Black Panther was coming out. And he had seen it, and everybody was talking about how amazing this movie was. And I'm like, can I go see Black Panther? Like, without seeing everything else? And he's like, yeah, it's a standalone. There are a couple moments that you might not fully grasp, but yeah, you could watch Black Panther without any kind of prior knowledge. And so I did. I went with my dad and my brother to go see Black Panther. And I was absolutely blown away with what Black Panther was as a movie.
Black Panther is dope. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched Black Panther, don't watch this.
I immediately texted my buddy and I was like, is this what they all are? Like, is this what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is? Are they all this good? And he's like, well, they're not all that good, but yes, that is what they are. And from that moment, I believe I probably came home and was like,
we're watching everything.
We need to get, and so we set a goal and powered through. I don't think we watched everything.
No.
We watched the majority of all of the movies to get caught up for Infinity War. And we did that. And it legitimately has been the time of my life. Especially being able to enjoy it with you.
Yes.
Like,
I'm down to watch any of them.
We went on the journey together, which I think makes it a little bit more special, obviously. But in terms of, like, the movies and content and enjoying something, like, this shit has legitimately changed my life. And jumping into this movie, I cried like a fucking baby. Like, I'm not ashamed to admit that. I am man enough to admit that this movie legitimately had me, like, tears came down my face.
I cried like 10 times.
There were a couple moments that, like, it was heavy, like the emotions were really heavy, and that's kind of the first thing I want to talk about is the emotion of this movie.
I sobbed like I was hysterical.
I mean, they set the tone for that from like the first moment of the film.
Yeah.
When friggin' Hawkeye is out like having a picnic with his family, and like his daughter, like he's teaching his daughter how to use the bow and arrow, and like he turns around and pulls like the bullseye out, and it was like,
guys, fellas,
and you just kind of like subtly see the dust. Like,
yeah, but he doesn't notice it.
Right, you don't see it because it was very subtle, and it's like, okay, I knew this was gonna be bad, but that's what they're starting with. Like, holy shit!
So awful.
I mean, the emotion of this movie just hit on so many levels of just. I kind of felt bad for the people kind of around me because there were a few moments where I was like, let's go! And like there were other moments where I wanted to cry, and I did cry, and there were other moments where like the range of emotion from this movie was literally every end of the spectrum.
Yes. It was up, down, laugh, cry, I mean, like bawl your freaking eyes out and then giggle a little. And then bawl some more.
The
like,
laughs
even by the
were
end of the
there.
movie, I was still just like, there was just tears just still.
It was, and I think, and I talk about this a lot, especially since we've been doing these shows and watching a bunch of like TV and doing movie reviews here and there. We've done like a couple of these. But like the thing that I really, really kind of view as a great film for me, and again, I'm not a film critic. I mean, yes, I went to broadcast journalism school, but that's not film school. That's not the same thing. We're just normal people who enjoy movies and good entertainment.
A casual fan right over here. More intense over there.
Yeah. But the one thing that really sucks me in to consider something being great is the emotion. Can you get me upset? Can you make me happy? Can you make me fucking cry? Like, if you're able to pull those kind of emotions out of me versus me just sitting in a theater and being like, oh, that's dope. Oh, that's dope. Oh, that's cool. Look at that explosion. Oh, that's cool. Like, the emotional aspect of content is what really kind of sets the bar for me, which is why I've always loved Star Wars so much. Because there's like such an emotional, like a strong emotion that just comes along with Star Wars that, you know, it just hits you like really hard. And like this movie, oh my goodness.
So good.
I can't even.
So good.
And I think that's ultimately what, and we could kind of talk about it now if you want. But like, again, maybe an over-exaggeration, maybe not. I want to see it like 14 more times.
That's what I said immediately after. I was like, I want to see it again.
But, and it could be a little bit of recency bias, but that, I'm not, like, the immediate thought walking out of the theater, I remember saying this, that it was the single greatest moment of cinematic enjoyment that I think I've ever had in a theater. From top to bottom, I don't think I've ever enjoyed something so much because of the wide range of emotion and the story that was told in this movie.
Totally. I agree. Yep.
I mean, there were moments where I definitely saw Nikki, like, she had her.
The ends of my sweater, my napkins, it was just I didn't wear face makeup for that one. I was I ugly cried the shit out of that.
We had a nice little morning date for that movie, so it was nice.
Breakfast and a movie.
Dropped the kids off, went and grabbed some breakfast, and I was nervous wreck. Like, I was so, like, I was wearing my Captain America shirt, and I'm just like, please no one come up to me and say something about the movie. Please no one come up to me, say anything about the movie. And luckily, made it. I know a lot of people were spoiled, and I'm really sorry for those who were.
That sucks.
But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of them going around.
But if you were on social media, you did it to yourself.
Yeah, but there are people who, like,
purposefully seek out.
But like LaShawn McCoy, who's an NFL running back, who you shouldn't feel worried about following, like, put the biggest spoiler on Twitter 3 times.
Are you kidding me?
Like, he said...
That's fucked up.
He said it, and then, like, put out a video about it, and then put out another tweet. And it's like, dude, you're just looking for attention. Like, that's just rude. But Yeah, that was a little bit of a tangent. But the one thing that was really worrying me that I was actually concerned about in terms of if I was going to enjoy this movie or not. I mean, there weren't many doubts in my brain that I was going to enjoy this movie. But the time travel, like, I think we all knew that there was going to be some form of time travel in this, whether it was using the quantum realm or somehow getting a hold of the Infinity Gauntlet and, like, using the time stone to rewind it.
That's exactly what I said at the end of Infinity War. I'm like, can't they just get it back and just snap again and just reverse it? Which
they tried, didn't work. But the whole, like, I'm not really, when it comes to time travel and messing with, like, the time-space continuum, I'm just going to throw that word out there, my brain generally doesn't do well with that kind of stuff.
That concept.
Like, I don't follow it really well. Like, in certain movies or TV shows, like, I have a real hard time kind of following along and why that worked and why that didn't work, or why this worked and why that,
the logistics.
Like sometimes it could just be a little much for me, but I thought it worked. I thought the time travel that they used, like, yeah, there were a couple question marks, like, all right, Loki just grabbed the stone and just kind of disappeared, and they're like, oh, okay, fine, we'll just go to a different time and grab that. And you know, it was just one of those things where, like, none of the time travel stuff once at all kind of took me out of the moment. There weren't a lot of, like, oh, why did that happen, but then why didn't that, what, huh, like, there's a lot of question marks that I have.
Like, I have a question right now.
Yeah, what?
Well, okay, so, like, after Natasha, like, why couldn't they have just gone back, and then, but then that wouldn't make
exactly, like that's kind of part of my brain on why I decided to just go with the flow on that. Like even when Cap went back and decided to stay, like, under other rules of movies and shows that have used the time travel, wouldn't that have, like, messed everything up? Him staying back and like staying with Peggy, like, I feel like that would have messed up stuff in other movies, or, like, but I guess they were using different, like, I don't know what rules they were using. I don't fully grasp what it was.
Right, because he was technically frozen in time at that, his other self.
Yeah, I guess they were.
So then the current self that went back hung out with her and made a life.
But then he showed up old.
But
at the end,
then wouldn't there be two?
Those are the kind of questions where, like, it didn't take me out of, like, I just played along. It was just one of those things where I'm like, all right, Captain America, like, when they tried to click him back over and he wasn't there, I'm like, okay, he decided to stay with Peggy, and then all of a sudden,
because that was, like, a big topic in it. He's like, the love of my life. I missed out on the love of my life. It's like, okay, he's gonna stay.
Yeah, and that whole Tesseract.
You want it. You want him to stay.
Which also,
like, don't leave her.
Which might be part of the reason why I just went along with it, because it was like, that's such a great story.
It is.
And that's ultimately where Captain America's story should have gone. Like, I totally agree with that. And just, again, like, the Tesseract's been such a crazy thing in my brain, like, between Captain Marvel and now in this, like, in Endgame. Like, the Tesseract's been on a hell of a journey. That cube, man, is just, like, it almost felt too simple when Loki grabbed it, when Hulk friggin', I hate stairs.
I know.
And, like, he
knocked it out of him.
He blasts Tony, and the briefcase opens right in front of Loki, and he grabs it and just disappears. Like, it's just one of those weird moments where it just felt too easy for them to be like, oh, we have one more thing to use. We're just gonna go back to this moment. And then Tony, like, interacted and met with his dad, and, like, that was a really great moment too. Like,
why didn't they do that in the first place?
What?
Go back to then to get it, instead of wasting time with themselves in the Stark Industries building.
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe it was more exciting.
Just saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, like overall with the time travel, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of like the people who are gonna like break these movies down like scene by scene and like frame by frame are gonna.
Yeah, you do you, boo.
There's gonna be plenty of like plot holes and certain things that come into play, but
nothing's perfect.
Of course, but again, it was one of those moments where the time travel, it just didn't pull me out of it. It didn't distract me. It didn't make me overly think anything.
Because we're not watching reality. That's the whole point of the movie, is to escape reality and enjoy your time.
Right, but there's still plenty of things that could happen in a movie that just takes you out of it. Be like, wait, that didn't make any. That made no sense at all. And I mean the one scene, like the other part, like old Thanos gets killed, but then young Thanos time travels forward, and then like new Thanos or younger Thanos is fighting all of the Avengers, and like Gamora's there, and then like Nebula is like fighting young Nebula, and then
with like visions of like
that part was crazy. Like that part was trippy as hell because her brain. I don't know if you call it a brain. I don't know the
her
total,
like computer system.
Like the fact that like, because I know that Thanos could like tap into her visions or memory or whatever. It's like all recorded, and just the fact that like these new recordings were popping up as he was like interrogating her was
when you
like,
already saw that part. But like in other movies,
it was in the future. Like that shit was so cool. Like, I thought that was super dope, and I thought that totally, like, if it didn't make sense, you could let us know. But in my brain, as I was watching that movie... I just loved it.
I don't care if it makes sense or not, I just loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. But, like, the idea that old Nebula killed young Nebula, wouldn't that mean old Nebula would die?
That's what I was thinking. I thought she was like, she's gonna die right now.
I thought she sacrificed herself for sure.
That's what I thought.
And it was like one of those weird things where I'm like, what rule? Like again, it didn't. It took me out of the moment for like a split second to be like, oh, okay, they're just operating on different rules. Like the rules that they're playing with are just different.
Right.
So yeah, I thought that part was kind of interesting.
Yeah, when she shot a hole in her, I was like, that means that she's dead then, yeah?
Yeah, I totally thought that she had sacrificed herself.
Totally?
Totally. I totally think. The passing of the torch. That was a pretty massive storyline in this. Because
I cried.
Yeah, I mean, they had talked about this being, like, the name of the movie was Endgame. But we know that this is not the end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. No. We know that we already have a Spider-Man movie coming out very, very soon. And we know that there's already like a Doctor Strange 2 and a...
Two of my favorites.
Black Panther 2 and another Guardians 3 is going to get... Like, so like we know...
All of those. I love all of those.
We know that they're all coming. And so like we knew that there had to have been some type of passing of the torch. And like between Cap handing it over to Sam, which was a spectacular moment... You know, I just assumed that it was Cap was gonna pass it. Like if Cap was moving on, I just assumed he was gonna move it on to Bucky. But him and Sam are like, it makes sense for Sam to be
buddies,
there too.
Man.
Yeah, but I mean, him and Bucky are best friends, going all the way back, way back. But like the fact that Sam got that,
Bucky has a questionable period of time.
He was kind of he was under control.
Yes.
But like Bucky kind of gave him the nod, like. Yeah, man, this is cool. Let Sam have it. And then Thor being like, I can't be the man. Wait, what did he say? Like, I have to be the man that I want to be, not the one that I'm meant to be. Or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And then he passes on the whole kingdom to Valkyrie, which is a pretty dope moment.
That was dope. She's like, I'm going to make some changes. He's like, good.
Go ahead.
Make them.
That's why I'm making you queen of Asgard. Like, go for it. And then Thor... Oh, I love Thor and the Guardians together.
I know, they belong together.
They're so great, and
like I'm in charge. Yeah. Oh, everybody knows you're in charge.
I mean,
sure.
Quill is so insecure around Thor. I mean, I would imagine every man would be probably.
It's Thor.
Like even though Quill's not 100% human man, like he's half and half, but still, like, I think every human looking species would be a little uncomfortable around Thor. Like, we could all be honest about that, right?
It's Thor.
I mean, it's Thor. I mean, we'll talk about this more later, but this version of Thor, not so hot, right?
I like the short hair Thor.
But he let himself, he had every right, but he was a little depressed when we ran into him, just like
he was working through some things.
A lot of these folks were working through things. But I like how the joke is as Guardians of the Galaxy. He's like, well, I'm in charge. Well, no, you're in charge. Like, Thor is clearly the most powerful dude on that ship. That dude is in charge.
100%.
There's no question about it.
No.
And then at Tony's funeral, which, dude, that scene...
I lost my mind.
One of many that was just so hard to watch. And we're going to talk about Tony at the very end. That's the last note I have for us to talk about. But, like, again, passing of the torch, the camera kind of just panning through all the new age kind of Avengers and ending right on Captain Marvel with her new fancy haircut.
Fuck, I love that. And the fact that, like, Rocket made a joke about it. Why don't you go get another haircut? It's just like, I will.
She's like, why don't you shut your mouth, you little rabbit?
Yeah. Did you call him a rabbit?
I don't know what she called him, but everyone always called him what he wasn't, which is always kind of funny.
It's like, he's a raccoon, right? No, he eats trash and all this stuff.
Yeah, he's great. But yeah, it's just the future of the MCU, despite kind of wrapping up the story of Captain America and Iron Man. I think we're going to get another Thor movie and Black Widow. Like, I love the way that they didn't, like, again, smash you over the head with this. They kind of made it like, hey, this is the end game of this 10-year, 22-movie saga that we've created, but we've got a lot more great shit lined up for you guys. And, you know, I haven't put in the time and, you know, dedication like everyone else has over the amount of all of these years, but I've definitely put in the time watching, put the hours in, catching up and being invested in this, and I do feel pretty optimistic that Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to be in good hands. I mean, I love Doctor Strange. I can't wait for another Doctor Strange movie. Yes. Black Panther is super dope.
So good.
That movie was so great, and that cast that they have is amazing. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man, I think he's been my favorite Spider-Man, my favorite Peter Parker, I think, hands down.
Oh, I was about to say that too. Like, that is my favorite Spider-Man. Sorry to Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
But,
so I'm excited about that. Far From Home looks like, I'm really, 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 really curious to see how, apparently that movie is taking place right after Endgame.
Oh, really?
So I'm really interested to see how that all plays out, because 5 years technically went by, but they're all still in high school. Like, they didn't lose any time. Like, I want to see how they do that, because all the people who were snapped just kind of came, like, I'm not even going to try to tackle that and try to understand that right now. I'm going to let them hopefully put out another trailer with a little bit more information to kind of lay that one out there. Because I believe
but no,
in the trailer,
5 years and then it went back.
No, they never went back. They went back, took the stones and brought it back
to present time.
Yeah.
Okay. See
the time travel stuff.
It's tough, but I like it. I don't care. I just like it.
It's definitely tough. And, you know, especially with Fox and the whole acquisition there of Disney acquiring Fox, like, we're going to get X-Men at some point, I would imagine. I don't know if that's going to fall into the MCU or not. But, you know, the Silver Surfer and the Fantastic Four could potentially pop up. Like, so do
you think Chris Evans would then play?
No, they'll recast.
The Fantastic Four.
I think he's done with the MCU after Captain America. I don't think he's going to play the Human Torch ever again. Mm-hmm. I think they'll fully recast all of that stuff. But, like, I really do feel like, as hard like walking out of the theater, like one of my other immediate thoughts was like, how do they follow up anything after this?
Right.
How do they keep this going? But these dudes are all geniuses who are behind the scenes at Marvel. They're going to make this shit work without question.
They put a little Stan Lee in there too, and it was, aww.
Yep, they made sure to get his cameo in there.
I loved it.
That was great.
Yeah.
The next thing I want to kind of hit on were kind of just random specific highlights that I had.
Yes.
And the first one that I personally, I take notes for these things now because I don't want to forget anything. But my highlights was everything. All of it.
Yep.
The entire movie.
Same.
One big giant highlight.
I
just
love it.
Pure greatness. I'm just kidding. But
no,
yes,
I'm not. I love all of it. I will watch that again.
It was an absolutely, like, from top to bottom, 3 hours. I was a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie. But like
we made sure to go to the bathroom right before, yes. like after the previews, before the movie. Bathroom breaks are done. We didn't get up. I didn't even think about it. Nope. Like it was a very quick but well worth like 3 hours. Like it went by quick, but it didn't feel like, it's weird because I feel like when I say that I don't want to do a disservice to the movie, but like it was a quick 3 hours, but everything was in there. Mm-hmm. Everything was perfect in terms of the storytelling. Like I feel like everyone got their due. Like Groot.
I'm Groot. Somebody, this is a little off topic, but somebody, I saw a video somewhere saying like someone needs to do like a video compilation of Groot and Hodor having a conversation. Like
I want to see it.
Like how hilarious would that shit be if just like Hodor, I am Groot. Hodor, I am Groot. I am Groot. Just like that would be someone just totally random. I'm sorry.
Yep.
But yeah, like that's the real first highlight that I wrote down was getting to see Captain America fight Captain America.
That's America's ass.
Like that. Like there was I love speculation. I love theories. I love going into these movies, hearing what other people think is going to happen. Like, obviously, I don't want spoilers. But I love theories and I love ideas. And I just love speculation about going into things. And not once, anywhere, and especially in my own brain, did I ever once consider seeing Captain America fighting Captain America.
Dude.
Like, that was amazing. Mm-hmm. That was, like, so cool. Like, the old, or
like,
the young...
kicked my own ass.
The young Captain America was like, that's Loki! Because Loki could, just,
shapeshift.
Yeah. And, like, he's like, no, dude, it's me. Like, but he couldn't say that. And then, like, he was getting, like, choked out, and he used Bucky, like, to get out of it. He's like, Bucky's alive. And he let go, and then he beat his ass, and it was, like, made the comment. Who was it? It was, Tony that made a comment about his butt. Mm-hmm. How that original suit.
That his suit was not doing his ass any favors.
Yeah, like that scene, like that's just
but
one
Rocket's
of those.
Like, no, that's America's ass.
And then he complimented his own ass after he beat himself up.
Yep.
But that was one of those moments where it's like I never once thought I needed that. But I'm like, that's super dope. Like, Captain America versus Captain America. I could do this all day. Like, yeah, I know you can. Like, that's just great.
Yeah.
Another great highlight, another Captain America one using Thor's hammer.
That was so cool.
Like, when that shit...
I was like, oh, what?
Yeah. Everyone, I think that was one of the loudest pops in the theater when Captain America, like, caught the hammer, and everyone was just like, what?
He is worthy!
and Thor was like a proud papa. He's just like, I knew it. Mm-hmm. Like, that was just such a great moment. It's just like, and then at one point there were two of them roaming around, because the old hammer and then the newer hammer or something, again.
The axe, what is it?
Well, no, he had Stormbreaker, but I thought Captain America had a hammer and Thor also had a hammer.
No.
I thought Thor was double fisting, and I thought Captain America had a shield and a hammer.
No, he had the hammer.
I could have sworn that he had both. Like, there were two hammers flying around.
And then he gave the hammer to Captain America, like, you take the little one.
I could have sworn I saw two of them. Again, I gotta watch this movie again. and again 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 and again.
I can't wait till it's on Netflix.
And again and again.
I'm down.
But yeah, just the idea that Captain America is just the dude went from me not being able to watch his whole movie at the beginning because I just wasn't into Chris Evans to being my favorite Marvel superhero. Like Captain America, like it's the only actual Marvel shirt that I own. I was rocking his shirt on the day that we went. Like he became his development through all of these films. Like he became my favorite like superhero, and you know just the fact that he was able to pull that shit off was so cool. That was so cool.
My whole favorite team is Guardians.
You like the whole squad? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think they fit. I mean, Drax, Batista.
Yeah. I mean,
Drax, Batista as Drax.
I mean, just the Guardian movies, they just got that like 80s feel to it.
They do.
The music is always like on point.
From before the 80s, but
I mean, it's got some 70s and stuff in there. Mm-hmm. But like it's just got that music feel.
There's so much comedy and you're just like, this is the best.
Like Quill's just a huge dork.
He's an idiot.
And like yes.
Nebula and Gamora, like this is what I had. Yeah. It was either that or a tree branch.
Yeah, that was a really good moment.
This idiot.
And yeah, the Guardians are just fantastic. And I'm apparently super biased because my other favorite thing from this movie that I wrote down, you knew it was coming, y'all. You knew it was coming. Avengers Assemble.
That was so dope. That you could hear people in the theater.
Like, oh my god. Like that, like I'm sweating talking about this movie because I'm just so excited about it. But like when all those portals started opening up and every single Marvel character that we have ever seen ever in any of these movies from the beginning of time of the MCU just coming through
to help
and just like
to assemble.
Like Thanos, you are so fucked, dude. And just that whole moment and just Captain America. I love how I always forget his name, but Doctor Strange's dude. He was
shit.
Doctor Strange is like, all right, is that everyone? He's like,
you wanted more?
You want more? Like what? And just that whole epic, like that battle, that like the whole last hour of the movie, as everyone keeps saying, was just so epic.
So good.
And just having it just like Captain America just going Avengers Assemble was just so dope.
The only part I didn't like is when Valkyrie's horse was hurt for a moment.
Don't mess with the animals.
God.
Don't mess with the animals. Were there any other highlights for you that I might have kind of skipped or messed out?
Everything.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Of course, you gotta talk about some stuff that, like, I hate to use the word didn't like or thought were bad or lowlights. Like, there was nothing in this movie where I watched it and when I think of something bad, I think of something that takes you out of the movie. Something that kind of like distracts you from what's going on. Something that, feels like it doesn't fit. And, there are three things that I don't classify as that. It was just stuff that kind of was just like, I kind of scratched my head and then moved on because the movie and the story was so good. I gotta be honest. I didn't like what they did with Thor.
I didn't appreciate it.
I didn't like what they did with Thor physically. It totally made sense why, like, he totally blames himself for all of this happening because he did not go for the head. And when they got the chance to fight Thanos in the very first act, and he's like out of his mind, just not thinking straight, just friggin' Stormbreakers his head off. He's like, what did you do? He's like, I went for the head. And so, like, I get why he acting mentally the way he did.
Yeah.
It was just a little jarring that he was just so fat and out of shape and just so bummed and just all he cared about was drinking.
Totally
and
Lebowski.
Totally Lebowski.
The dude.
He was the big Lebowski through and through. Like the whole time while this movie was playing out, I was expecting like when things like kind of snapped into place for Thor, I thought he was just magically gonna
That's what I too.
I thought like it was just gonna like the fat was gonna shred off. He was gonna be jacked again and just be like, "Let's go!" Like and have one of those like bring me Thanos moments in this movie, which kind of didn't happen. Which again, I don't want to say it was a bad thing, but it was one of those.
I get why.
It totally makes sense. It was just you see Thor on screen and you want to see this friggin' hulked out, shredded monster of a god. Like even as a dude, I could say that.
I'm winking with my right.
Jeez.
Rocket. Guardian movie.
Yeah. So that's one thing a little bit kind of took me out. And the other thing, and I will say this was kind of a letdown, was Hulk. Like after Infinity War, I really wanted to see him. Like obviously he played a real important role in terms of accomplishing the time travel thing.
Well,
but I wanted to see this fucker Hulk out and just wreck some shit.
Right, but also putting the glove on. You couldn't have done that if Hulk was Hulk. You had to have a smart Hulk.
Right. And I get all of that. And, 99.9% of the comedy in these Marvel movies land with me. And it's like perfect. Their comedy is what I think separates them from other films. It's just like they've got all this high action, they got all this high drama, they got all these super emotional moments, but they also make sure to get the light stuff in there with the jokes.
They will make you bawl and then put a little jab in there and be like, it's all right. You don't have to cry that hard.
It's like the scene with Hulk and Ant-Man in the diner was funny. Like it was funny. He's like, oh hey, little guy, you want a picture with the Ant-Man? You want the little guy? Like that shit was funny. It was just. It was one of those moments, which is why I don't want to classify it as something bad or a low light, because I understood why they made Hulk the combo Hulk. It was the smart, genius, powerful Hulk because of what you said.
Brains and brawn.
Right. He needed both of those to accomplish the missions that he had. It's just, again, after watching him get his ass beat by Thanos, I wanted to see him Hulk out and destroy shit. But again, he put the Tony Stark made gauntlet on, snapped the finger, and like it had to be him because gamma rays, of course. And like he had to be strong enough and powerful enough to withstand the force of doing the snap. And it made sense. Totally get it. Again, it's just one of those moments where I'm like, I just wanted to see the Hulk just destroy some shit. I mean, we did get to see it in the time travel, seeing Hulk from the original Avengers just destroying just a car that's already destroyed, just going nuts on it, which is great.
Mad. Yeah. Hulk
like
smash.
Hulk take the stairs. Hulk hates stairs. Like that was great. That was a great moment.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I wrote down was I don't know if Black Widow's story was complete.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, her sacrifice, like, I feel like she was the one who was holding down the fort at headquarters.
For all those years.
She was the one who was there, like, making sure, like, even though there was no Avengers, she was the one kind of running the business. And the fact that, like, it was more about Hawkeye in that moment when they were getting the Soul Stone. It felt more about Hawkeye's journey than Black Widow's. And I know Hawkeye's also been with the franchise since the very beginning.
And Hawkeye has a family.
And yeah, it just, I don't know. Again, I want to watch it again. I want to watch it many more times. I might have a different feeling about Black Widow's story. I
freaking bawled at that.
Yeah, that was awful. Like, and it was just one of those moments where, I don't know. I expected something different.
Well, you also kind of picked that one apart when we were leaving.
I did a little more research on that because I was always kind of under the idea that you had to sacrifice the one that you loved most for the Soul Stone to work, but that's not what he actually. Like, I went back and listened again, and it's someone that you loved. And you know, Hawkeye and Black Widow, they had a really close relationship, so it's still classified.
They're like family,
right?
Yes.
Because I was like, wait a minute, are they implying that Clint loved her, that he loved her more than his wife and kids? Like, that's not. it's not that deep. Mm-hmm. It's just, as long as it's someone that you love, someone that you have feelings for, that you care about, then it applies.
Like, you're not going to take your enemy to obtain the soul stone.
Exactly. So those were a couple things that, again, I don't want to like necessarily classify as bad, but it was just things that kind of stuck out to me as just like, maybe like a little head scratcher or something. Was there anything that jumped out to you in this movie at all that bugged you?
Well, just
outside of those three things.
It was just the Captain America thing. Like, wouldn't there be two? I mean, the entire time that the old Captain America, or the frozen Captain America, and then when he gets unfrozen, wouldn't
the time
there
travel thing
be two?
Yeah.
Sorry, not four. Two.
Yeah. That's, again, I didn't want to dive too deep into the whole idea of that time travel because I didn't want to overthink. I totally get what you mean.
Yeah, like, okay, well then he can just have another life also?
Yeah. I don't know. That was one of those weird things where, like,
it's not like,
because I had heard people talk about that before the movie started, because there were people making predictions that he was going to go back in time and stay with Peggy. And people were like, that'll mess up the whole timeline. Like, everything will get messed up from then on out. Because technically, if that happened, then Captain America would have never been with the Avengers through all of these wars that they went through. Like, he would have never been there.
Right.
So then, but I guess that's not that's not the rules that they were playing by with the time travel. So again, I'm not going to question it.
So, like, the Frozen one went and did all that stuff while the now Captain America hung out with Peggy?
I think the way that they did it was they each just had different timelines. Like,
but wouldn't they then meet back?
I don't know. Again, I'm like, it's the time travel thing is too complicated for me to try to figure out. It's just one of those questions that
maybe in another movie we'll figure it out.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of explanations for it. And then the last thing, gotta talk about it. It probably the most emotional part of this entire movie. I love you 3000. Fucking Tony Stark.
And his baby. Fuck.
This whole thing started with Tony Stark, I am Iron Man, ending with Tony Stark, I am Iron Man. You could finally rest, Tony. Your work here is done.
That killed me. You can finally rest now. Because as they were speaking on the couch before the time travel shit got together, it's like, I could just go to bed. And she's like, but would you rest?
Yeah.
And he's like, no. And then just the whole, now you can rest after he put on the thing.
And you knew, like, the moment I think I realized Tony wasn't going to make it out of this movie, because I thought he was. I didn't think he was going to die.
I didn't think so. I was like, oh, he's going to be in intensive care.
My prediction was that he was going to just go retire before the movie started. Like, before walking in, I'm like, he's just going to retire. He's going to move on. Tony Stark's not going to die. The moment I realized that I think he was done was when him and Strange were talking, and the one before that, they actually spoke, and Doctor Strange was like, or Tony's like, you said one out of however billion or whatever, and he was like, is this the one? And he's like, if I tell you, it won't happen. I'm like, fuck. Yeah. That means Tony's the one who's going to have to sacrifice himself for this one plan to work. And if Strange told him, he wouldn't have done it. Probably because his whole... The whole thing that brought him into this was it had to stay, everything that had to come back, but everything that currently was happening had to stay the same because he wanted to keep his family. He wanted to keep Pepper. He wanted his daughter. That was the deal. And so when Tony got that fucking gauntlet on and snapped everyone away, all the bad guys, that was such a difficult moment. And then the funeral. And
just, I'll get you all the cheeseburgers you want, Morgan. All the cheeseburgers.
Like, and I think that was the reason why that hit me the hardest, was the whole father-daughter thing. Like, having two little girls. Like, that was awful. Like, that hurt so bad watching that.
I mean, a little brown-haired, brown-eyed girl.
It looked just like our oldest. And it was just like... And she loves cheeseburgers, just like I love cheeseburgers. But, like, yeah, that was a really, really rough...
I love you 3,000. And then he
That'll
comes
forever,
downstairs.
That'll forever be a thing
and
now.
It's like, well... You were in like the lower 100s.
Yeah.
And I'm 3,000.
Yeah, that'll forever be a thing now. And it just made so much sense that this whole thing started with Tony, ending with Tony. I mean, Iron Man, Tony Stark, you are such a fucking rock star.
Yes.
Like, without you, we wouldn't be here right now.
Nope.
There is no way the MCU would be where it is today without Iron Man 1 and Tony Stark. And Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of that character.
So dope.
Because he was
Thank
perfect.
you for getting your shit together.
Yeah.
I do have to say one thing. Gwyneth Paltrow also fighting beside him.
That was super dope.
I mean, it was a little like, what the fuck is this?
He
but
made
then
the suit
also, it was like awesome because in the beginning, it was like, she never wears anything I buy her.
Yeah, exactly.
Or make for her.
Yeah,
or whatever.
the daughter was playing with the mask.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it was sweet.
Tony Stark, like, I don't even know if there are words to fully kind of talk about how important he is to all of this.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it started with him, it ended with him, and I mean, it's going to go on without him. It will, because we know that there's more stuff coming out. But just that closing, like, it wasn't even the closing scene because Cap closed the show. But his, like, funeral and just, like, man, it was perfect. It felt like it was perfect. The perfect tribute and the perfect kind of out for that generation of Marvel kind of characters and actors. Like...
Yeah, it was really good.
It was perfect. Like, again, the level of emotion that was going on during all the Tony Stark stuff, like with his daughter, with Pepper, his embrace with fucking Spider-Man. Like,
oh my god, that killed me too. It's like, kid, you're back.
When Peter Parker came out and saw Tony, like, that moment was like, all of the reunions were amazing. Like, all the people having their people back was amazing.
I love that he calls him Mr. Stark.
But those two, like, that embrace was so great. Because you know how much Tony cared about him.
And how much he cared about Tony.
Yeah, it's just, that was such a great moment.
That was like his hero.
And yeah, I mean, that whole thing with Tony was just... It had to go out that way. It had to go out that way. He had to be the one responsible for officially being the one to get the Thanos kill.
Yeah.
He's the one.
Yep.
So, wow. That was a long discussion. I'm fired up about this movie. I want to see it 10 more times. I mean, there were so many great moments that probably... Like, I remember seeing the silhouette of Black Panther walking through that portal, and I'm just like, oh my god, let's go! Like, that got me so fired up.
As soon as the circles, I was like, yes! Fucking yes!
Like, just the silhouette of Black Panther, like, that got me going. I felt a little bad for the person sitting next to me.
She was fine. She had a Bloody Mary at 9:30 in the morning. She's all good.
She was good. But yeah, like, there were so many great moments, so many highs, and, like, so many good lows. Like, in terms of just how emotional everything was. Again, I recency bias possibly, but it might have been the greatest experience that I've ever had in a movie, like in a movie theater. Mm-hmm. Star Wars, you're up. Good luck trying to wrap up your series as well as Marvel just did. Because I feel like what Marvel just did is unmatchable. I feel like their wrap-up was perfect. Yeah.
You know, people in the comment section are just going to rip you a new one.
That's fine. Go ahead. Like, I love Star Wars more than anything, but I'm honest about the stuff that I love. I could still be critical of the stuff that I love. I have no problems with that. I have high hopes for Rise of Skywalker, but Marvel right now is just on a tear.
Killing it.
It's just on a tear right now. Like there's no denying it. And it's not like a one versus the other, even though I kind of just compared the two.
Yeah.
It's just expectations.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars is wrapping up obviously Marvel just wrapped up a 20 movie series. Star Wars is wrapping up a 35-year journey of 9 movies. So, like, it's almost on the same playing field in terms of how important the wrap-up is on this. And I really hope JJ could stick the landing on this Star Wars movie. I love the trailer. I love what he did with The Force Awakens. I think he could do it. This is a Marvel discussion, though, so we'll talk about Star Wars on another day. But do you have any final thoughts on the Avengers Endgame?
Well, if you're watching this, that means you've already watched it. So go watch it again.
Yeah. We gotta watch it.
What are you doing on Friday?
Watching Endgame? Maybe.
Awesome.
Yeah, so, alright. Those are our thoughts. Kind of hit on the things that popped out to me after watching it the very first time. You too. So yeah, like, I want to watch it again. I want to see what else I might take away from the movie. See if the time travel stuff is more clear. If the Thor and Hulk stuff bothered me less this time around. If, like, what other... I want to see what other potential impact I have watching it again. Because, again, 3 hours plus... There was so much wrapped up in this movie. Mm-hmm. There were so many storylines concluded, so many more getting to continue, and just so much going on. Thanos, that dude is in the top echelon, the Hall of Fame of villains.
Yeah,
that dude is so dope. Like, he got to the point where he's like, my plan, I was wrong. I thought the 50% of the living beings would thrive if I removed the other half. Now I just need to remove all of you and create my own fucking race.
Yep. That
like,
won't remember any of this.
Holy shit. Like, this dude is just...
That won't know about any of this.
He's a bad motherfucker. So...
Do you think this is age appropriate? Do you think we should take the kids?
I mean, they watched Infinity War. I feel like Infinity War was more violent. We could take them to go see that. My question taking the kids is a 3-hour movie. Like, they're not going to sit through a 3-hour movie. And I sure as hell ain't taking them to the bathroom during Endgame.
Hell no.
So, I'm not doing that. Like, that's the only reason. But, yeah. Alright. That is enough. Thank y'all very much for watching. Thank y'all very much for listening. That was a long discussion. I mean, this movie, I could keep talking about it for another hour probably. But yeah, leave your thoughts down below. Let us know what you thought of the movie. Where do you rank it amongst Marvel movies? Right now, it is at the top of my list. It is number 1 of Marvel movies for me. Maybe as time goes and things settle, maybe it'll stay at the top forever, because that's where I think it belongs, just because of what it accomplished. So yeah, leave them comments down below. We want to hear from all of y'all, all of your opinions. Let us know. Is it the greatest Marvel movie of all time? Is it the greatest comic book movie of all time? I saw some people saying that. I don't know. Dark Knight was pretty fucking amazing. So yeah, leave them comments. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. And we will see you guys next time. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.